I'm Sarah, 29 years old, and today was supposed to be the happiest day for my grandfather, William. Instead, it became the day my own family tried to destroy everything I held dear. 3 years ago, I left my promising career as a graphic designer in Seattle to care for Grandpa after Grandma Emma passed away from lung cancer. At 75, he was struggling with grief and couldn't manage the sprawling farmhouse that had been in our family for 4 generations. My older cousin Marcus, 42, works as an investment banker in New York. He lives in a penthouse with his wife Jennifer and their twin boys. Despite earning 6 figures, he visits Grandpa maybe twice a year. My sister Lisa, 35, is a real estate agent in Denver. She has her own busy life with her husband and daughter. Both of them always had excuses for why they couldn't help, so the responsibility fell on me. I moved into my childhood bedroom and devoted myself to caring for the man who had raised me after my parents died in a car accident when I was 12. The farmhouse sits on 50 acres of prime land just outside Charleston. Grandpa built most of it himself in the 1970s. Every board, every stone holds memories. The wraparound porch where Grandma taught me to read, the barn where Grandpa showed me how to fix engines, the kitchen where we baked cookies every Sunday. 2 years ago, Grandpa started dating Rose, a 52-year-old nurse he met at his cardiologist's office. She seemed caring at first, always fussing over his medications and encouraging him to stay active. But something felt off about her. She would ask strange questions about the property value. She made comments about how expensive it must be to maintain such a large house. When Grandpa mentioned his will, she would listen intently, then quickly change the subject. Marcus and Lisa welcomed Rose enthusiastically. They saw her as their ticket to freedom from any guilt about abandoning Grandpa. "See, he's fine now. He has Rose," Marcus would say during his rare phone calls. But I noticed things they didn't. Grandpa started having more confused episodes after Rose moved in. He would forget conversations we had just hours before. His energy dropped significantly. Rose explained these changes as normal aging, but my gut told me otherwise. 3 months ago, I discovered Rose tampering with Grandpa's medications. I caught her switching his heart pills with different tablets late one night. When confronted, she claimed she was just organizing them, but I knew better. That's when I called my college friend Kevin, who works as an elder law attorney. Together, we started gathering evidence. We installed hidden cameras in the common areas. We documented every suspicious incident. We arranged for Grandpa to see an independent doctor during one of Rose's weekend trips to visit her sister. The results were shocking. When properly medicated, Grandpa's confusion cleared dramatically. Dr. Martinez confirmed he was being given unprescribed sedatives that were causing artificial dementia symptoms. Kevin helped us prepare legal protections. During a lucid period, Grandpa signed documents naming me as his healthcare proxy and creating a trust to protect the farmhouse. We kept everything secret, storing the originals in Kevin's office safe. Today was Grandpa's 75th birthday. I spent weeks planning the perfect celebration. I invited our closest neighbors, the Johnson family, who had known us for decades. I made his favorite peach cobbler from Grandma's recipe. I created a photo album showing 75 years of his life. Everything was going beautifully until Marcus stood up during dinner with a triumphant smile. "I want to make a toast," he announced, pulling out a folder of papers. "Grandpa, you've given us so much over the years. Now it's time for us to give back. Rose and I have arranged for you to move to Sunset Manor, the finest assisted living facility in the state." My blood ran cold as he continued. "The farmhouse is too much for you to handle. We've decided to sell it and use the money to ensure you get the best care possible. So, Sarah, pack your bags. This place goes on the market next week." The room erupted in applause. Rose beamed with satisfaction. Lisa nodded approvingly. Grandpa looked confused and lost. "But what about the garden?" he asked weakly. "Emma's roses are about to bloom." "You won't need to worry about gardening anymore," Rose said sweetly. "Everything will be taken care of at Sunset Manor." I couldn't take another second. My heart was pounding as I excused myself and stepped onto the porch. With shaking hands, I dialed Kevin's number. "It's happening," I whispered. "They're trying to force the sale tonight." "I'm on my way," Kevin replied. "Uncle Pete is driving down from Columbia with Dr. Martinez. Stay calm. We're ready for this." As I hung up, I could hear Marcus inside explaining the sale timeline to a man I didn't recognize. Apparently, a real estate agent Rose had secretly invited to the birthday dinner. This was war. But unlike my family, I had come prepared to fight. 20 minutes later, 3 cars pulled into our gravel driveway. Kevin stepped out first, carrying his leather briefcase. Uncle Pete emerged from the second car looking determined despite his recent knee surgery. Dr. Martinez followed, medical bag in hand. I had been dreading this moment for months, but also preparing for it. The evidence we'd gathered was overwhelming, but confronting family is never easy, even when they're wrong. "Ready?" Uncle Pete asked, squeezing my shoulder. Despite being Grandpa's younger brother, he had always been my strongest supporter. We walked back into the dining room where Marcus was now spreading contracts across Grandma's antique table. The real estate agent, a slick man in an expensive suit, was taking photos of the chandelier with his phone. "Sorry to interrupt," Kevin announced, "but this property sale cannot proceed." Marcus barely looked up. "And you are?" "Kevin Thompson, Sarah's attorney. I represent William's legal interests." Rose laughed nervously. "This is ridiculous. William signed power of attorney to Marcus 3 weeks ago. Everything is perfectly legal." "Actually," Kevin replied calmly, "it's not." He opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents. William executed a revocable trust and healthcare directive naming Sarah as his primary agent. These documents supersede any power of attorney Marcus claims to have. The room went dead silent. Marcus's face turned red. "That's impossible. Grandpa has dementia. He can't make legal decisions." "Interesting point." Dr. Martinez stepped forward. "I'm Dr. Martinez, a geriatric specialist. I examined William last month and found him completely competent when not under the influence of unauthorized medications." Rose's confident smile faltered. "What are you implying?" "I'm stating facts," Dr. Martinez continued. William was being given unprescribed sedatives that caused artificial symptoms of cognitive decline. Once properly medicated, his mental capacity returned to normal. Lisa stood up abruptly. "Wait, what, Marcus? You told me Grandpa was deteriorating rapidly, that he couldn't remember basic things." "He was," Marcus insisted. "Rose can confirm that." Kevin pulled out his tablet and pressed play. Rose's voice filled the room. "2 more of these pills should keep him confused through the weekend. Marcus said the paperwork needs to be signed Monday." The video showed Rose crushing tablets and stirring them into Grandpa's evening tea. Everyone watched in horror as she checked to make sure no one was watching before administering the drugs. "You recorded us," Rose shrieked. "That's illegal." "Security cameras in common areas of one's own home are perfectly legal," Kevin replied, "especially when there's suspected elder abuse." Grandpa, who had been sitting quietly, suddenly spoke up. His voice was clearer than it had been in months. "Rose, have you been drugging me?" Rose's mask began to slip. "Harold, darling, you're confused again. These people are trying to—" "My name is William," he interrupted firmly. "And I'm not confused. I remember signing papers for Marcus, but I felt so drowsy that day. You made me that special herbal tea, didn't you?" The real estate agent quietly gathered his materials. "I think there are family matters to resolve here. I'll see myself out." Marcus tried to regain control. "This is all circumstantial. You can't prove anything." Kevin smiled grimly. "Actually, we can. We have bank records showing $35,000 transferred from William's accounts to yours over the past 6 months." "Care to explain those transactions?" Lisa gasped. $35,000, Marcus. What did you do? Financial management fees," Marcus said weakly. "Completely legitimate." "At 400% above market rates," Kevin countered. "Through a company you created specifically for this purpose." Uncle Pete had been watching everything unfold with growing anger. "Marcus, I helped raise you after your parents died. How could you do this to William, to Sarah?" The old man was declining anyway. Marcus snapped his facade, finally cracking. This house is worth over $2 million. It's wasted on someone who can't even remember what day it is. But I can remember, Grandpa said quietly. I remember Emma planting those rose bushes. I remember building the tire swing for you kids. I remember promising Emma this land would stay in our family. Rose had been growing more agitated by the minute. Finally, she exploded. Fine. You want the truth? Yes, I gave William medication to keep him manageable. Marcus contacted me 2 years ago with a plan. I marry the old man, help establish his incompetence, and we split the proceeds when the house sells. The admission hit the room like a bomb. Even Marcus looked shocked that she had confessed so openly. You were never supposed to fall in love with him, Rose continued, glaring at Marcus. This was supposed to be business, quick and clean. Dr. Martinez stepped forward with a small vial. William, I'd like to take a blood sample to document what medications are currently in your system. Grandpa nodded. Yes, I want to know exactly what she's been giving me. As Dr. Martinez drew the blood, Rose grabbed her purse. I'm not staying for this circus. My lawyer will be in touch about divorce proceedings. Your lawyer will need to discuss the criminal charges first, Kevin said calmly. Medication tampering, financial exploitation, and conspiracy to defraud are all felonies. Rose's face went white. She looked at Marcus desperately. You said this was foolproof. You said no one would question anything. Marcus backed away from her. I never told you to drug him. That was your idea. Liar, Rose screamed. You knew exactly what I was doing. You encouraged it. The truth was finally coming out, but the damage to our family would take much longer to heal. Uncle Pete put his arm around Grandpa. William, I think it's time these people left your house. As the confrontation escalated, I realized this was just the beginning. The legal battles ahead would be long and painful, but at least the truth was finally exposed. The next hour was chaos. Rose stormed upstairs to pack slamming doors and cursing loud enough for the entire neighborhood to hear. Marcus sat frozen at the dining table staring at the legal documents as reality sank in. Lisa had moved to sit beside Grandpa, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Marcus convinced me you were getting worse. He said Sarah was overwhelmed and that professional care would be better for everyone. He manipulated you too, I said, surprised to find I wasn't angry with her. Marcus has always been good at making people believe what he wants them to believe. Kevin was documenting everything on his tablet, recording Rose's continued outbursts from upstairs. Each threat and admission would strengthen our case. Dr. Martinez finished his examination and pulled me aside. Sarah, your grandfather's cognitive function is remarkably good for his age. The confusion and memory issues were entirely artificial. Within a week of proper medication, he should be completely clear. Relief flooded through me. For months, I'd feared I was losing the sharp, witty man who had raised me. Knowing his mind was intact felt like getting him back from the dead. Rose appeared at the top of the stairs with 2 suitcases, her face twisted with rage. This isn't over, she hissed at me. You think you're so smart, but you've just ruined your grandfather's chance at proper care. The only thing ruined here is your scheme, Uncle Pete replied firmly. William is getting the best care possible, from family who actually loves him. As Rose dragged her bags toward the door, she made one final desperate play. Marcus, tell them about the medical reports. Tell them what Dr. Stevens said about William's condition. Marcus finally spoke, his voice hollow. Dr. Stevens is Rose's former colleague. She fed him false information about Grandpa's symptoms. Another piece of the puzzle clicked into place. Even the medical opinions had been fabricated. Rose whirled around. You're throwing me under the bus to save yourself. We're partners in this. We're partners, Marcus corrected coldly. Past tense. With a string of curses that would make a sailor blush, Rose slammed out of the house. The sound of her car speeding down our gravel driveway marked the end of her reign of manipulation. But Marcus remained, and the hardest conversation was yet to come. "Grandpa," he began, his voice shaking. "I know this looks bad, but everything I did was for your own good. This house is too much for you to handle. Sarah can't care for you forever." Grandpa studied his grandson with sad, clear eyes. "Marcus, you stole money from me. You conspired with that woman to drug me. You tried to take the home Emma and I built together. How is any of that for my good?" "The money was for financial services," Marcus insisted weakly. "The house sale would have funded your care for decades." "In a facility I never wanted to live in," Grandpa replied. "Did you ever ask what I wanted? Did you ever consider that I might prefer to stay in my own home with Sarah's help?" Lisa found her voice. "Marcus, why didn't you tell me about the drugging, about the fake medical reports?" "Because you wouldn't have gone along with it," Marcus admitted. "You still have some conscience left." The words hung in the air like a slap. Even Marcus seemed shocked by his own honesty. Kevin cleared his throat. "Marcus, I need to inform you that criminal charges will be filed. Financial exploitation of an elderly person, conspiracy to commit fraud, and potentially kidnapping if you had succeeded in forcing William from his home." "You can't be serious," Marcus said, panic creeping into his voice. "I'm family. This was a family matter." "Elder abuse doesn't become legal just because it's committed by relatives," Kevin replied. "In fact, it's often more serious when family members betray that trust." Uncle Pete stood up slowly, his arthritis making the movement painful. "Marcus, I want you to leave. William needs time to process this betrayal without looking at your face." "This is ridiculous," Marcus sputtered. "I was trying to help. Someone had to make the hard decisions about Grandpa's future." "The only hard decision," I said quietly, "was choosing greed over love. You made that choice, Marcus. Now you have to live with the consequences." For a moment, I thought he might apologize, might show some remorse for what he'd done. Instead, his expression hardened. "Fine, but this isn't finished. That power of attorney document is still valid until a court says otherwise. I'll fight this." Kevin smiled grimly. "I look forward to presenting our evidence to a judge, including the financial records video footage and Rose's confession. Good luck explaining that away." Marcus grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. At the threshold, he turned back one last time. "You'll regret this, Sarah. When Grandpa has another medical emergency and you can't handle it alone, don't come crying to me." "I wouldn't dream of it," I replied. After he left, the house felt different. Lighter, somehow, as if a dark cloud had been lifted. Dr. Martinez packed up his medical bag. "I'll have the blood test results within 24 hours. Based on what I observed today, I expect we'll find at least 3 different sedatives in William's system." Lisa helped clear the dinner dishes, moving carefully around Grandma's china, as if afraid she might break something precious. "Sarah, I need you to know, I had no idea about any of this. Marcus told me you were struggling, that Grandpa was getting worse." "I believe you," I said. "Marcus has always been convincing when he wants something." "How long have you suspected?" she asked. "Months, but I needed proof before I could act. Kevin helped me build a case." Grandpa had been quiet during the cleanup, processing everything that had happened. Finally, he spoke. "Sarah, I owe you an apology. I should have trusted your concerns about Rose sooner. I was lonely after Emma died and Rose made me feel useful again. I ignored the warning signs." "You don't owe me anything, Grandpa. You were grieving, and they took advantage of that." "Still," he continued, "you sacrificed your career, your life in Seattle to take care of an old man, and this is how your family repaid you." Uncle Pete settled into his favorite chair with a groan. "William, that girl saved your life today. Probably saved your sanity too. Emma would be proud of what Sarah did." As evening fell, the Johnson family from next door stopped by with homemade cookies, having heard the commotion earlier. They'd been suspicious of Rose for months, but hadn't wanted to interfere in family business. "We should have said something sooner," Mrs. Johnson admitted. "But you know how it is. Nobody wants to get involved in private matters." "It's okay," I assured her. The important thing is that the truth came out before it was too late. That night, as I tucked Grandpa into bed, he squeezed my hand. "Thank you for fighting for me, sweetheart. For fighting for our home." "Always, Grandpa. Always." But as I turned off his light, I knew our battle was far from over. Marcus wouldn't give up easily, and the legal proceedings would be long and painful. At least now we were fighting from a position of strength with the truth on our side. 2 weeks after the birthday confrontation, our quiet farmhouse became the center of a legal storm. Kevin had filed emergency protective orders preventing any property transactions or additional withdrawals from Grandpa's accounts. The district attorney was building criminal cases against both Rose and Marcus. Dr. Martinez's blood tests confirmed our worst fears. Grandpa had been given 3 different unprescribed medications, a powerful sedative, an anti-anxiety drug, and a mild antipsychotic. The combination would have made anyone appear cognitively impaired. "It's actually remarkable that William maintained as much clarity as he did," Dr. Martinez explained during a follow-up visit. "Most people his age would have been completely incapacitated by this drug cocktail." The legal proceedings moved faster than I expected. Rose, facing felony charges for elder abuse and medication tampering, accepted a plea deal rather than risk trial. She received 2 years probation community service and a permanent restraining order. Most importantly, the marriage was annulled on grounds of fraud. Marcus proved more stubborn. He hired an expensive lawyer and fought every charge, claiming he was a victim of Rose's manipulation. But the evidence was overwhelming. Bank records showed systematic theft. Video footage captured planning conversations. Text messages revealed the conspiracy dated back 3 years. The hardest part was watching our family fracture. Marcus's wife Jennifer was mortified when she learned the truth. She filed for divorce within a month, taking their sons and moving back to her parents' house in Connecticut. "I can't believe I was married to someone capable of this," she told me during a tearful phone call. "The boys keep asking where Daddy is, and I don't know what to tell them." Lisa, meanwhile, had become a regular presence at the farmhouse. She came every weekend, sometimes bringing her husband David and their daughter Emma. Named after our grandmother, little Emma brought joy back to Grandpa's eyes. "I need to understand how I missed all the signs," Lisa confided one afternoon as we watched Emma chase chickens in the yard. "Marcus was so convincing when he described Grandpa's decline." "He told you what you wanted to hear," I replied. "That someone else was handling the difficult decisions so you didn't have to feel guilty about living your own life." She nodded sadly. "I was so focused on my career and family that I took the easy way out. I should have visited more. I should have questioned things." The most surprising development came from an unexpected source. Mrs. Chen, Grandpa's physical therapist, contacted Kevin with additional information about Rose's past. "I worked with Rose at Memorial Hospital 5 years ago," she explained during a meeting at Kevin's office. "She was fired for medication irregularities. Patients under her care often seemed over-sedated and drugs went missing from the pharmacy." This information led to a broader investigation. Authorities discovered Rose had targeted elderly patients at multiple healthcare facilities, always working with male accomplices to gain access to vulnerable seniors. We weren't her first victims. "You probably saved other families from going through this," Kevin told me. Rose and Marcus had already identified their next target, a widower in Savannah with substantial property holdings. Meanwhile, Grandpa's recovery was remarkable. Within 3 weeks of proper medication, his energy returned. His memory sharpened. He started working in Emma's garden again, tending the roses she had planted decades ago. "I feel like I'm waking up from a long, confusing dream," he told me one morning as we had coffee on the porch. "There were so many days when I couldn't think clearly, couldn't remember simple things. I was starting to believe I was losing my mind." "Rose wanted you to believe that," I said. "It made you easier to control." Uncle Pete had become our daily companion, driving over every morning to help with farmhouse maintenance and simply keep Grandpa company. His presence was healing for all of us. Your grandmother Emma always said this land had protective spirits. Uncle Pete mused one afternoon as we watched Grandpa teaching little Emma how to identify different vegetables in the garden. Maybe they were watching over you during all this chaos. The financial damage was significant, but not catastrophic. Marcus had stolen $35,000 over 6 months, but Kevin's quick action prevented larger losses. The court ordered full restitution, though collecting from Marcus would take time since he'd lost his banking license and most of his assets in the divorce. What hurt more than the money was the betrayal itself. Marcus had been my protector when our parents died. He'd helped me with homework, driven me to school events, made me feel safe in an uncertain world. Discovering his willingness to drug and defraud his own grandfather shattered something fundamental about family trust. How do you forgive something like this? I asked Uncle Pete during one of our evening talks. You don't have to forgive, he replied wisely. Not right away anyway. Forgiveness is for your peace of mind, not his. When you're ready, if you're ever ready, you'll know. The community support overwhelmed us. Neighbors brought casseroles. Local farmers helped with harvest preparation. The Methodist church, where Grandpa had attended for 40 years, organized a prayer circle for our family's healing. This is what real family looks like, Grandpa observed one Sunday after church, watching friends and neighbors gather for our weekly potluck dinner. People who show up when you need them, not people who scheme to take advantage. 6 months after the birthday ambush, Marcus's trial concluded. He was convicted on multiple counts of financial elder abuse and sentenced to 18 months in prison. The judge was particularly harsh, noting that family members who exploit elderly relatives deserve no mercy. I attended the sentencing not out of vindictiveness, but to see justice served for Grandpa. Marcus looked older, deflated. His expensive suit couldn't hide the shame and defeat in his posture. As he was led away in handcuffs, he caught my eye one last time. I thought I saw regret there, maybe even remorse. But it was too little too late. Lisa squeezed my hand as we left the courthouse. Do you think he'll ever understand what he really lost? Maybe, I said, but understanding and changing are two different things. The legal battles were finally over, but the healing would take much longer. Trust, once broken so completely, doesn't repair easily. Our family would never be the same, but perhaps that wasn't entirely bad. We'd learned to value the people who truly cared about us and to be more cautious about those who claimed to have our best interests at heart. As we drove back to the farmhouse that afternoon, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months: peace. The future was uncertain, but at least it was honest. 1 year after that terrible birthday, our lives had settled into a new rhythm. The farmhouse felt peaceful again, filled with genuine laughter instead of hidden tensions. Grandpa had regained not just his mental clarity, but also his sense of humor and joy in simple pleasures. I'd found my own balance too. With Grandpa's improved health, I hired Maria Santos, a wonderful caregiver who came 3 days a week. This allowed me to accept a remote position with a sustainable design company, keeping my creative skills sharp while staying close to home. The work was fulfilling in ways my old corporate job never was. I specialized in eco-friendly farmhouse renovations, drawing inspiration from our own property. Clients loved my authentic understanding of rural life and sustainable living practices. Lisa had become an integral part of our weekly routine. Every Friday evening, she arrived with David and 6-year-old Emma for weekend visits. Little Emma adored her great-grandfather, and he came alive, teaching her about gardening, woodworking, and the stories behind every corner of the farmhouse. Tell me about the secret room again, great-grandpa, Emma would beg, curled up on his lap in the evening. Well, Grandpa would begin, his eyes twinkling. Your great-grandmother Emma hid her special recipes in a box behind the kitchen wall. One day, I'll show you where she kept her chocolate chip cookie formula. These moments reminded me why fighting for our home had been so important. It wasn't just about property or money. It was about preserving the vessel that held our family's memories and stories. Uncle Pete had become our unofficial family patriarch. At 72, he was slowing down but still sharp as ever. He'd sold his house in Colombia and moved into the small cottage on our property that Grandpa had built years ago for farm workers. "This old place suits me fine," he'd say, sitting on his tiny porch each morning with coffee and the newspaper. "Close enough to help, far enough away to give you privacy." The cottage arrangement worked perfectly. Uncle Pete was there for emergencies but didn't interfere with our daily routines. He and Grandpa spent hours each day working on farm projects, sharing stories, and simply enjoying each other's company. As for Marcus, we'd had no contact since his conviction. Jennifer occasionally sent updates through Lisa. He'd served his full sentence and moved to Florida working as a restaurant manager under his middle name. The banking industry was permanently closed to him. "He asks about Dad sometimes," Jennifer had told Lisa during one of their phone calls. "But he's never expressed real remorse. It's more like he's angry that he got caught." The boys, Marcus's twin sons, were doing well in therapy and had no interest in seeing their father. At 10 years old, they were old enough to understand that Daddy had done bad things to Great-Grandpa William. Dr. Martinez had become a family friend, stopping by monthly to check on Grandpa's health and often staying for dinner. His presence provided reassurance that we'd never miss signs of real medical issues. "William is in remarkable health for 76, he told me during his latest visit. "His blood pressure is excellent, his heart is strong, and cognitively he's sharp as someone 20 years younger. You've done an exceptional job caring for him." The compliment meant more than Dr. Martinez could know. For so long, I'd questioned whether I was doing enough, whether professional care might be better. Knowing that love and attention had succeeded where institutional care might have failed validated every sacrifice I'd made. Summer brought unexpected news. Kevin called with information that would change our understanding of the whole conspiracy. "Sarah, you need to sit down for this," he said during our monthly legal check-in. The FBI investigation into Rose's activities uncovered something significant. Rose, it turned out, was part of an organized elder abuse ring operating across 5 states. She and her associates had stolen over $3 million from vulnerable seniors over 7 years. Our case had blown open an entire criminal network. "You stopped them from targeting at least 12 other families," Kevin explained. "The FBI agent handling the case wants to thank you personally for having the courage to fight back." The revelation was both gratifying and horrifying. We'd prevented other families from experiencing our nightmare, but knowing how many people had suffered before us was heartbreaking. "How many families didn't have someone like you watching out for them?" Grandpa mused when I shared the news. "How many lonely seniors fell victim to these predators?" The question haunted me. It also inspired a new purpose. I began volunteering with the county's Elder Services Department, teaching families how to recognize signs of financial and medical abuse. My story, painful as it was, could help protect others. Lisa surprised everyone by joining my volunteer efforts. She used her real estate expertise to help seniors understand property scams and predatory lending practices targeting the elderly. "I can't undo my failure to protect Grandpa," she told me one evening after a particularly difficult training session. "But maybe I can prevent other families from going through what we did." Her dedication to making amends continued to impress me. Lisa had truly learned from her mistakes and was committed to being better. The most touching development came unexpectedly. Mrs. Chen, Grandpa's physical therapist, who had provided crucial information about Rose's history, became a close family friend. She and her husband, Tom, started joining our Sunday dinners, bringing their teenage daughter, Amy. "You feel like family to us," Mrs. Chen explained when I thanked her for her continued support. "Family helps family no matter what." Amy, at 16, reminded me of myself at that age. Curious, determined, and fiercely protective of people she loved. She and little Emma became fast friends despite the age difference, with Amy often reading stories or teaching Emma simple Chinese phrases. These chosen family relationships enriched our lives in ways blood relatives had failed to do. We learned that love and loyalty aren't automatic just because you share DNA. They have to be earned and maintained through consistent actions. As autumn returned, marking the anniversary of that nightmare birthday, I reflected on how much had changed. The farmhouse buzzed with genuine warmth and activity. Grandpa was healthier and happier than he'd been in years. Our family, though smaller, was stronger and more authentic. One evening, as I was finishing up some design work on my laptop, Grandpa appeared with 2 cups of hot chocolate topped with whipped cream. "Remember when you used to help me with homework right here at this kitchen table?" he said, settling into the chair across from me. "You always made the best hot chocolate," I replied, savoring the familiar taste of home. "I have something for you," he said, pulling out a small wrapped box. "I've been waiting for the right moment." Inside was Grandma Emma's engagement ring, a delicate vintage setting diamond framed by sapphires. "I can't take this," I told Grandpa. "It should go to Lisa or Emma. Your grandmother would want you to have it," he said. "You saved our home, our legacy. You were there when everyone else was ready to send me away." It fit perfectly on my right hand. "I'll treasure it," I said. She always believed this house would know who belonged. Recent events proved her right. 2 years later, at his 77th birthday, the dining room was full of people who truly cared: neighbors, friends, extended family. Uncle Pete toasted, "Today we celebrate love over greed, courage over cowardice," raising his glass to Grandpa and me. That night, Dr. Martinez asked to publish a case study on Grandpa's recovery. Kevin shared that Rose, who had exploited him, got 8 years in prison. Justice imperfect, but real. Later, Grandpa spoke of forgiveness and Marcus. They began exchanging letters. Marcus apologized, blaming gambling and debt, but his words rang of self-pity. We set boundaries for a short visit. When Emma, now 8, asked if he was the bad man who tried to steal Great-Grandpa's house, Marcus admitted it and said he was sorry. It was his most honest moment, but still, Grandpa and I agreed he wanted forgiveness more than change. 3 years on our home is full again of people who choose to be here out of love, not obligation. My design business thrives from the same table where Grandpa once helped with my homework. The birthday betrayal taught us who truly belongs: those who show up when it's hard, who protect what matters most. The farmhouse still stands, as Grandma Emma promised, sheltering only those willing to love, sacrifice, and fight for it. And that's all that matters.